So, I hope you enjoyed the meditation, and if you have any feedback on it, you could send me a message, uh, um, private message, or you can go ahead and post some comments in the chat. We're kind of changing the style of our meditations. You'll find some more variations coming up in different sessions. And if you enjoy this, I also invite you to practice it later this week, okay, during your next meditations. As you know here, once you've come 8 times, you become eligible to get to learn more meditation. But now, let's look at this list here at the on the screen. So we've been covering the 15 Shilas, 15 uh, qualities of positive behavior and social qualities. The first one was forgiveness, magnanimity of mind, perpetual restraint on behavior and temper, readiness to sacrifice everything of individual life for ideology, all-around self-restraint, sweet and smiling behavior, moral courage, setting an example by individual conduct before asking anybody else to do the same, keeping aloof from criticizing others, condemning others, mudslingings, and all other sorts of groupisms, adherence to the principles of yama and niyama, due to carelessness if any mistake had been committed, unknowingly or unconsciously, one must admit it immediately and ask what they can do to make up for it. Last week we talked about even while dealing with a person of inimical nature, one must keep oneself free from hatred, anger, and vanity. And today we're going to talk about keeping aloof from talkativeness. So, I want to start by talking about a movie. We're going to talk about not being talkative. But you may have seen this movie called 1,000 Words with the great Eddie Murphy in it. This movie is so interesting. It's so interesting. There's so many different takeaways that one can get, but definitely this movie applies to this principle of keeping aloof from talkativeness. So in this film, it's about this man who's played by Eddie Murphy. And this man is an executive. He's a book publisher. And he's very, very, very business minded and very, very, very strategic in how he sells himself and sells what he offers. And he has the opportunity to publish a book for this guru, who is the man in white here. And the guru decides to basically just take this relationship deeper. And not only just possibly get his book published by Eddie Murphy, but actually try to teach him a very deep lesson, kind of scary lesson. And so he says to him, he puts this kind of spell on him. And every time Eddie Murphy speaks, suddenly this tree is planted in Eddie Murphy's backyard. And then every time Eddie Murphy speaks, one leaf falls from the tree. And Eddie Murphy is used to just being very free with his words, saying a lot of stuff he doesn't mean, saying things just to get by and get his way, sometimes lying just to be able to save 5 minutes of time on something, a few minutes of time, cheating in that way. And just kind of, like we can all get, we forget that we think that our words are just, they don't mean anything. We can just say whatever we want anytime at all. And that they will just kind of blow around in the air like leaves and wither away and disappear. And in this case, basically, what the guru said is that there's 1,000 leaves, I believe, on this tree. And he only has 1,000 words left to say. And when the 1,000th leaf falls, that's his last word, and he will die. And I think that that's not too different from our life, because one day we will die. And in that lifetime, there will have been a finite number of words that we will have uttered. Countless, right? I mean, but finite. Maybe a total of, I don't know, I have no idea. Millions of words? I'm not sure. But not infinite. And maybe even less. Maybe hundreds of thousands of words. And when we leave our body and we say our last word, wouldn't it be better to have said words that mattered? Words that encouraged? Words that were convictions? And words that others could rely upon? Or will they be words that hurt others? Words that were used to manipulate others? So given that we only have a few words that we will ever utter in our lifetime, or just a certain amount of words, we should endeavor to make our words mean something. Mean at least something positive. So there could be other deeper lessons to the film. And I'd like for you to please, I should have said this earlier, please start typing into the chat, your insights on this about being talkative. And this week when I posted about that, somebody said, if I were less talkative, I would listen more. And I heard once in high school or middle school, somebody say, God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth. So it must mean that hearing is more important than speaking. And I think that that is very true. You know, Nelson Mandela was a great leader, is considered a powerful leader. And one time they asked Nelson Mandela, why is it that he was a good leader? They said, Mr. Mandela, many say that you are one of the most gifted leaders of our time. What was it that allowed you to be such? And he said, one thing I always do in every meeting that I am at where I may or may not be the leader, says is, I always speak last. I always speak last. I let everybody in the room talk, one at a time. And I let everybody in the room express what they want, express how they feel. And then when it comes to my turn, which is at the end, now everybody is more ready to listen because they have already gotten out what they wanted to say. And so now they're more, it's more possible that they're going to actually listen to me. And then also now I can modify what I was going to say based on what's going on in the room and be more effective in what I need to communicate. So there is a power in withholding the word. My grandfather used to say that you are a victim to the things you say, but a master to what you keep. In other words, when you say something, you get judged on what you've said. Now, that doesn't mean that you should be silent and you should be shy and I don't know if what I'm going to say is like that great, because sometimes we have that problem that people are actually shy and that's why they don't talk. And shyness is something that is about inferiority complex. And then those that are overly talkative are those that may have superiority complex. Like maybe Eddie Murphy's character in 1,000 Words, he had some degree of superiority complex. And neither one of those is good. And then before I hear your comments, I'd just like to say that there isn't just the external talk. There's also the inner talk. We are always also talking to ourselves, aren't we? In fact, what is a soliloquy? What is a monologue? It is when somebody is speaking on a stage alone, a character speaks alone. But when we are thinking, that's actually exactly what we're doing. We are talking to ourselves. And some of the things that we say, if people heard what we think, they would think we were crazy. So we should also monitor what we say to ourselves inside our head. Because if it's crude in the mind, it will be crude out in the world. If it's subtle in the mind, it will have a very positive effect out in the world. So these are some thoughts and reflections on talkativeness. I'd love to hear your insights, please. Let's look at the chat. Let's see here. I see that, let's see here. Alicia said, Meira, I used to live in Ithaca. I grew up in upstate New York. Cool. I visited Ithaca, when was that? Not too long ago. I was always curious about Ithaca. I think that's where Rod Serling is from, the creator of The Twilight Zone, if I'm not mistaken. Ithaca used to be actually like I think a type of Hollywood, like one of the early places where there was a lot of film. So it's pretty cool in that aspect. Let's see here. And then Aaron stepped away. No problem. Come back, Aaron, whenever possible. And then we have Hitendra. Active listening is a proactive form of communication which allows us to learn. Yes, absolutely. He says, how I used to be. Okay. And then Christina says, I find it interesting when those who speak the least get the most rapt attention when they finally open their mouths. Which person, Hitendra? And then Hitendra again said talkative. Yeah, there were periods in my life too where I was talkative. You know, sometimes we're talkative when we try to be cool, when we try to impress people. You know? And then sometimes we're talkative because we're nervous. And we reveal how nervous we are when we're too talkative. Like I show up to a meeting with my friend, he says, hey, how's it going? I say, oh, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, oh, this is my new shirt, but I got it dirty earlier because I had some food. Now it's a little dirty, but it's like, what? What does that have to do with anything right now? Why did you offer to just share that information? Or you walk up to your friend and you're like, hey, how's it going? And you're like, oh, I'm good. I'm these days, I put on a little weight, but I've gained some weight, but I'm going to be going to the gym pretty soon. And nobody cared about how much you weigh or how you look. Nobody said anything about that, but there you are volunteering this information. Why? Because you're being talkative. Because you're being nervous. And it shows in the release of words that don't mean anything. And what's worse is they are words that speak against yourself. So not only should we not use words against others, but also against ourselves. Nobody needs to know those things. You don't have to tell people, I used to be a sinner. I used to be a failure. I used to be this or that. The words don't have to be weapons against ourselves and against others. And then Christina says, haha, this is my new shirt. Okay, I'm glad I made you laugh, Christina. It's so nice to have you here, by the way. Does anybody have any more comments? I will, since it's almost time to close, I will go ahead and start announcements so that those will be out of the way, and then I'll come back to see if there are any more comments on this topic. Okay? All right. Well, there's one that just came in. My new standard answer, I'm grateful, happy, joyful, and thankful for the experience. That is a good use of words. That is a good use of words. You know, sometimes people say, well, why would I say that if I'm not super joyful? Why would I say that if, somebody says, how are you doing? And I say, I'm great. Say, but why would I say I'm great when I'm really not great? Well, here's the thing. You don't have to use those words, but if you use the word like that, if you say, I'm great, I'm feeling great, that becomes autosuggestion. If you say that long enough, you will feel great. And if you don't believe me, you can experiment with that. Try thinking positive, speaking positive. When you're feeling down, when you're feeling sad, just say, I feel happy. I'm happy. I feel happy. I'm feeling happy. Somebody asks you, how are you today? I'm doing better. I'm doing great. Trust me, you will live up to that. So it's important. The words can also, they're powerful even in that regard. Okay? Now, let's do the announcements. Actually, before that, if you don't mind, I'll tell you one last, one last connection. I also find that this principle is connected to the yama of satya, which is to be benevolent with the words. I've told this story before. And as I listen to myself say that, do I say that because I feel self-conscious that I might be boring you? Am I being respectful by saying that this might be something you've already heard? It's maybe hard to say, right? But sometimes we find that, before people talk, they apologize before talking. They say, for example, oh, I'm sorry, I just have one question. Like, why is that anything to apologize for? Right? So the words, they tend to reflect a sense of vulnerability that we can examine. I was just going to tell the story of Yogananda. He was such a devout follower of Satya, always using words for benevolence, that he developed a superpower. And you can develop this too. He was so honest and so positive with the words that after a while, anything he said would come true. So there's a story of when he went back to India and he met with his sister. And she was feeling bad because she was too thin. She felt too thin. And she told him, I'm suffering because of this. And he said to her, you will not be thin. You will gain weight. And you will look exactly as you want. And in a short amount of time, she suddenly started to put on some more weight. And what he said came true. So there's so many different ways to look at words as being powerful, but that's an inspiring story from Yogananda. And our words are powerful. They could be either weapons, or um, uh, they could be the factors that materialize things into reality, and also can bring so much joy to people.